there's a scientific study nobody talks about. In 2023, researchers hid speakers and cameras near waterholes in South Africa's Greater Kruger National Park. They played different sounds through those speakers: lions roaring, dogs barking, gunshots, birds calling, and ordinary human voices. People just having a normal conversation. The scientists watched what wild animals did when they heard each sound. What they found broke every assumption we have about the natural world. The mammals near those waterholes, 19 different species, from elephants to giraffes to warthogs, were twice as likely to run from human voices as they were from lions. 95% of the species tested responded more strongly to humans than to any other predator. They didn't just leave. They left faster. They abandoned water sources. They stopped returning to areas where human voices had been heard. Just people talking. Scarier than the roar of an actual lion, which means something disturbing is true. And most of us have never had to think about it. Animals don't see humans the way we see ourselves. They see us as something much stranger. Something they've been quietly warning each other about for thousands of generations. And what they think we are might change how you see your entire species. This is the story of what animals actually think of humans. Not the cute answer, the real one. Let's start with what we assume. Most people, when they think about how animals perceive us, imagine something like a simplified version of ourselves. Dogs think we're weird two-legged dogs. Cats think we're big, clumsy cats. Cows probably don't think about us at all. Wild animals see us as generic predators. And whatever the animal is doing, we assume it fits into some familiar category. Almost none of that is accurate. The scientific truth is that animals have developed extraordinarily specific ideas about what humans are. And those ideas are shaped by things we can barely detect. Smell patterns we can't smell. Movement signals we don't notice. Behavioral consistencies we don't even know we're broadcasting. Every animal that interacts with humans is running an internal calculation. And most of those calculations don't produce the answer we'd expect. Let's start with dogs. Because dogs are the animal most people think they understand best. And the science of what dogs actually think is stranger than any pet owner realizes. A 2015 study led by Japanese researcher Miho Nagasawa found something remarkable. When dogs and their owners look into each other's eyes, both of their brains release oxytocin, the same bonding chemical that mothers release when nursing infants. This bonding loop doesn't happen between dogs and their own biological pack. It happens between dogs and humans, which means dogs have literally rewired themselves during 30,000 years of domestication to bond with humans on a level that they don't even reach with other dogs. To a dog, you're not just a pack member. You're not a strange, upright wolf. You're something completely new that dogs invented a category for. The closest plain English description might be an alien parent. A being that provides everything a parent provides, but doesn't look, smell, sound, or behave like any biological parent should. Dogs know you're not a dog, but they've stopped caring. Their brain has classified you as the source of all things that matter: food, safety, warmth, direction, love. To your dog, you're not another animal. You're the reason the world makes sense. But that's just dogs. And dogs are a special case because they've been shaped by us for 30,000 years. Every other animal on Earth is looking at us from a very different position. Cats are next. And this is where a lot of what most people believe is wrong. The common belief is that cats see us as their servants, or as inferior, clumsier cats, or that they barely notice us at all. None of that turns out to be accurate. A 2019 study by Kristyn Vitale at Oregon State University tested cat attachment behavior. She found that around 65% of cats show what researchers call secure attachment to their humans. That's the same attachment pattern babies show toward their parents. It's the same pattern dogs show, which surprised almost everyone in the animal behavior community. Cats aren't indifferent to us. They're just quiet about it. But here's the part that gets weirder. Adult cats almost never meow at each other. Meowing is a behavior they mostly outgrow after kittenhood, except when they're around humans. Cats have developed a specialized vocalization pattern that they use only for communicating with us. And they modify the tone and pitch of those meows based on what they want. Food meows sound different from attention meows, different from door open meows, different from you're in my spot meows, which means cats haven't just accepted us into their lives. They've invented a language specifically for us, a language they don't use with any other cat. To your cat, you're not a servant. You're not a bigger cat. You're a member of a species intelligent enough to learn a custom communication system, and rich enough in resources to be worth the effort of learning it. So yes, your cat may still ignore you sometimes, But apparently, it has invested serious research and development into ignoring you more effectively. Now, so far, both dogs and cats have chosen to bond with humans, so of course their perception of us is shaped by generations of domestication. But what about animals we haven't tamed? This is where the story gets genuinely unsettling. Horses are prey animals. Their entire nervous system is built around one job: detecting threats before those threats can kill them. They read body language with a precision no human could match. They notice the subtlest shift in your breathing. They register whether your muscles are tense or loose. They can tell if you're carrying an object with intent or just walking past. When a horse looks at a human, the first thing its brain checks is this a predator? And the answer it gets is confusing. We have forward-facing eyes. That's a predator trait. We walk directly toward things we want. That's predator behavior. We use tools to kill from a distance. That's a level of predator threat no other species can match. But we also don't behave like predators once we're close. We groom instead of biting. We feed instead of hunting. We form bonds with individual horses over years. We speak in soft voices. We move calmly. The horse can't reconcile this. Its brain has no template for what we are. So over time, it builds a new category. Something like, predator-shaped being that has chosen not to hunt me. That's an unstable classification. It requires constant reevaluation, which is why horses spend so much of their energy watching us. They can never fully relax around humans, because their nervous system doesn't have a permanent slot for what we are. Birds see us in a way that's stranger still. Crows are one of the most intelligent birds on the planet. In 2011, researchers at the University of Washington ran an experiment. They wore specific masks while capturing crows. Then they released the crows. For years afterward, whenever anyone in the area wore that same mask, the crows would scream, dive bomb, and warn other crows away from the person. The crows remembered specific individual humans. They passed that information to their offspring. Crows that had never been captured by the original researcher would attack anyone wearing the mask, because their parents and neighbors had taught them who the enemy was. Which means crows don't just see humans as a category. They see us as specific individuals with reputations. To a crow that has learned about you, you're not a member of a threatening species. You are a threat with a face and a history, and that reputation travels through generations. Some crows even bring gifts to humans who feed them. Not scraps, actual gifts. Buttons, coins, small pieces of glass. Researchers have documented dozens of cases, which suggest that in the crow's mind we're not just food sources, we're beings capable of receiving offerings. Beings that have expectations, preferences, and social relationships worth maintaining. To a crow, you're not just a giant featherless creature, you're a person, with a name, with a story. And the crow has decided whether it likes you. But now we get to the parts of the animal kingdom where things get genuinely alien. Octopuses are cephalopods. They're not just a different species from us. They're from a completely different branch of the evolutionary tree. The last common ancestor between humans and octopuses lived over 600 million years ago. When you look at an octopus, you're looking at a form of intelligence that developed entirely separately from ours. It's the closest thing on Earth to an alien mind. And octopuses have opinions about humans. Aquariums and research labs around the world have reported cases of octopuses behaving differently toward individual keepers. Some octopuses ignore certain keepers and squirt water at others. Some appear to remember which humans have been friendly and which have been rough during handling. There are reports of octopuses that refuse to eat when specific staff members were on duty, and others that develop daily greeting routines with familiar researchers. There's a documented case from a research setting where an octopus, over the course of weeks, appeared to learn to identify one particular scientist who fed her. When that scientist walked into the room, the octopus would rise to the top of the tank. When other scientists walked in, even wearing similar clothing, even at the same time of day, she would retreat. The octopus wasn't responding to a uniform. She was responding to a specific human. The reason this is strange isn't just that octopuses recognize humans. It's that their nervous system is distributed in a way that ours isn't. 2/3 of an octopus's neurons aren't in its brain. They're in its arms. Each arm has partial autonomy, which means when an octopus interacts with you, some of the perception, memory, and decision-making is happening in body parts we would call limbs. Nobody knows exactly what an octopus perceives when it recognizes a human, but whatever it isn't happening through the kind of unified consciousness we experience. It's something distributed. Something we have no evolutionary template to imagine. When an octopus watches you through the glass, The recognition might be happening in 8 different places at once, which brings us back to the study from the beginning of this video and the reason it changes everything. The Kruger study was published in the journal Current Biology in 2023, but it wasn't the first of its kind. Earlier research, including work by Justin Sirachi and his team at the University of California, Santa Cruz, had already shown similar effects in North American ecosystems: wolves, mountain lions, deer. Every predator and prey species tested reacted more strongly to human voices than to the sounds of their natural threats. Across continents, across species, across ecosystems, the finding kept holding up. Wildlife treats human voices as the single most terrifying sound on Earth, not because we're louder, not because we smell worse, not because we look scarier, but because of something animals seem to have quietly figured out about our species over the last 100,000 years. We are the most dangerous predator that has ever existed. Humans kill more animals, at greater distances, with more consistency, and across more habitats than any other predator in evolutionary history. Wolves take down deer through pursuit. Lions ambush from close range. Bears rely on strength and territory. Every other predator has physical limits, range limits, prey limits. Humans have none. We kill from a distance we don't need to close. We kill species we don't need to eat. We kill in numbers that would be impossible for any pack of natural predators. And we do this across every ecosystem on Earth, at every hour of the day, for reasons that often have nothing to do with food or territory. To wild animals, we've earned a category no other creature has ever occupied: the superpredator. Ecologists actually use this term now. It's not clickbait. It's the scientific classification for what humans are, based on measured behavior across ecosystems. And animals have adjusted. Deer alter their movement patterns to avoid places where humans have been recently seen. Mountain lions change their hunting hours to reduce overlap with hikers. African elephants react to human languages differently, based on which tribe historically hunted them. Even fish in overfished waters change their reproductive timing to avoid periods when humans are most active. There's a specific example that captures this. Researchers studying elephants in Kenya discovered that the elephants could distinguish between the languages of 2 neighboring tribes. One tribe historically hunted elephants for meat, the other did not. When elephants heard recordings of the hunting tribe's language, they reacted with high alarm, gathered their calves, and moved away. When they heard the non-hunting tribe's language, spoken by the same age and gender of speaker, they barely responded. Elephants had learned to identify specific human cultures as threats, not humans in general. Specific groups of humans based on the sound of language. Every species that has interacted with us has updated its worldview to include a specific fear. Not fear of a natural predator. Fear of a predator that operates by different rules than anything else in the natural world. Now here's the twist. And this is what makes the story genuinely strange. The same species that fears us this deeply, deer, wolves, elephants, birds, marine mammals, even fish, has also, in specific circumstances, learned to bond with individual humans. There are documented cases of wild deer approaching hikers who've quietly fed them over months. Wolves who've been rehabilitated form specific attachments to their handlers. Elephants remember individual humans for decades, distinguishing between those who helped them and those who hurt them, which means animals seem to hold 2 things in their minds at once. Humans as a species are the most dangerous force in their world. Individual humans, however, can be safe, sometimes even trusted, sometimes even loved. Animals have developed something almost no human ever has to develop: the ability to fear a category of being while still being open to specific members of that category. Fear of the abstract. Openness to the individual. We do the opposite. We tend to trust our own species in the abstract, then treat individuals with suspicion. Animals have flipped that. They fear our species in the abstract and evaluate individuals fresh. There's a strange kind of wisdom in that, because they're right about us in a way we haven't fully admitted to ourselves. Which brings us back to the question this whole video is trying to answer. What do animals actually think we are? The honest scientific answer is that different animals have built different answers. To dogs, we're the alien parent. To cats, we're a species worth inventing a language for. To horses, we're a predator-shaped being that has chosen not to hunt them. To crows, we're individuals with reputations. To octopuses, we're a familiar shape on the other side of the glass with specific handling patterns. To wild animals, we're the super-predator whose voice alone is more frightening than a mountain lion's roar. None of them agree with each other, but all of them agree on one thing. We are not what we tell ourselves we are. We think of ourselves as the wise stewards of the planet, The most intelligent species, the problem solvers, the ones who understand the natural world better than any creature that has ever existed. Animals have quietly built a different profile. To them, we are the reason they've had to change their behavior, the reason their ancestors died, the reason certain forests are silent now, the reason the ocean sounds different than it did 100 years ago, the reason night no longer feels safe in places that were peaceful for millions of years. They've figured out something about us that most humans never have to confront directly. They've figured out what we actually are, not what we say we are, not what our culture tells us we are. What we do. Every species watching us is running that calculation constantly. Every sound we make gets added to it. Every action confirms or updates it. And the picture they've built of us is, in a strange way, more objective than the picture we have of ourselves. Because animals don't have opinions about humans. They just have observations. They see what we do. They remember what we've done. And they teach the next generation what to expect from us. To an animal, you're not a person with dreams and thoughts and a complicated life. You're a pattern, a recurring set of behaviors, a specific member of a specific category of being. And whether that being is safe, dangerous, useful, or all three at once depends entirely on what it has done. That may be the most humbling fact in the natural world. We are the only species that thinks we're the main character. And every other species has quietly disagreed. Animals see us differently than we see ourselves. And after decades of research, science is starting to say that their view of us might be more accurate than ours. We tell ourselves stories about who we are. Animals just watch what we do. And in the end, that may be the only measurement that ever really counted. If you want stories that make ordinary questions feel impossible to forget, subscribe. Every week we dig into one strange piece of the world and find the real story behind it, real research, real science, and the kind of answers that stay with you. Watch what shows up on screen next. It's the answer to a question you didn't know you were living with your whole life.